Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode where we talk about the instructional practices for students in this remote learning environment. No other profession has turned so quickly as educators. One day teaching face-to-face with students in our classrooms, and literally the next day providing all of that instruction in a remote learning environment. So on behalf of parents, on behalf of students and children, just like I have in my own home, and on behalf of educators, thank you for providing the opportunity for learning to continue given the circumstances around the world. This also becomes a time for us to reflect on the instructional practices that we see in a remote learning environment. And as we work toward the summer here on the west part of the globe, we think about what are those pieces that we want to continue when we come back in the fall. What we know is that some of the practices that we're seeing in a remote learning environment are coming across very successful. In fact, some students are thriving in this type of environment. So what is it about those instructional practices that are giving students the opportunity to thrive? And how can we take those practices and actually apply them when we come back in a face-to-face setting for the next school year? So as we continue to think about these pieces, I encourage you to come together as a team of educators and really identify what are those practices. On the screen, you're going to see a chart that's instructional practices for teaching and learning. And what I've done is just put some examples of practices. And then are they considered a best practice in remote? Is it a best practice in face-to-face? Or is it a practice that's really not a best practice? And so what you'll see, just like at the top, says small group instruction. What we know is that that has proven to be very successful in a remote learning environment where you have 3 to 4 students that you can either get together remotely via Zoom, WebEx, maybe on a phone call even, and you're giving the students instruction, guided practice, opportunity to demonstrate mastery. We know that's also a great practice face-to-face. We know some practices maybe are only good in a remote environment, right? Like a video of you as the classroom teacher demonstrating that particular skill in a 3 to 5 minute snippet where you can put out to students and families. That's a great practice. What we know is in the face-to-face classrooms, we want you doing that teaching live when possible. And so we wouldn't necessarily mark that as a best practice when we're doing face-to-face teaching in all situations. And so really for you as educators to come together and really identify what are all the practices, and then let's decide what are the 8 to 10 practices that we want to ensure all students have the opportunity to experience when we come back together for the next school year. And so this is just a sample chart that you could create and do. Pull up a Google Doc, have folks in a Zoom meeting, build out those practices. You could rate them in terms of voting on which practices resonated the most with the team, and then identify what's remote, or what's face-to-face. We need to take this time to really reflect on the analysis of our teaching and learning so that we can help support the teaching and learning of our students as we move forward into the next several weeks, as well as into the next school year. Thank you, and have a wonderful and fantastic day.